Ready?
um, all right, welcome everybody to the Snowbirds meeting room. Today's usual guests are Shadow Spectre 11, King Payne, and Zook. Um, Shadow Spectre 11 has another YouTube channel other than the Snowbirds meeting room, so go check that out. And then I have a YouTube channel called Voidwalker Joe. Go check that out too. Um, Today's topics are going to be a little bit different than what we usually do, since there isn't really much coming from CIG at the moment. But today's topics is going to be bounty hunting and investigations, features for 2023, and a new little segment that we decided to start called Ship of the Week, where we talk about one specific ship for each podcast, and just whatever we want to talk about when it comes to that ship, I guess. Starting with Shadow Spectre 11. First question when it comes to Ship of the Week, talking about the Aurora. And so, as far as the role that the Aurora fills, do you see any niches out there that people don't really get to realize? Also, maybe talk about your thoughts generally on the Aurora as well.
Okay. Getting into the game, I didn't choose the Aurora. I went with the 100i. Originally, I was going to get an Aurora just to start with, but I decided to go with something different. There's so many variants of the Aurora. And with the starting package, the Aurora, I believe it's the ES or the MR, is a good starter. You know, you're not gonna be doing a whole lot of cargo or basically any fighting in this ship when you first start. You're going to be doing box missions. That's your best bet when you start. Okay, with the Aurora. As you progress, you'll go into your different variants, which are buyable in game. So it all depends on what you want to start with. You can go with another starter ship that's a higher price as a pledge. But to get started, it's a good ship for that. I'm not a fan of the Aurora, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just
Tell
okay.
us how you really feel.
Tell me how you really feel. You don't want to know that, but it's. I mean,
Did you
when
did you ever like it and now then decide to
no,
dislike it?
no, I never liked the ship. Even when I got a one in my fleet, I flew it once. Okay, just to see. To me, the range is limited. The combat capabilities are very, very poor. Um, and you can only carry so much. So why I went with the 600i is because of its refueling capabilities. And it had a bed that I could log out in.
Did you say 600i?
100.
100.
Oh, I thought he said 600i. I'm like, that's a hell of a jump.
No, but the 100 I picked because it had the capabilities to refuel itself, carry a little cargo, do the box missions, and it had the bed to log out.
Oh.
And that was my main thing. because I had just got into the game, and I still have my 100i to this day, and love that little ship. I take it out every once in a while to get a good feel for it, because sometimes when you're flying a larger ship, right, your maneuverability changes. When you go back to a smaller ship, you'll notice the difference. You'll notice the difference in the maneuverability. So every once in a while, I just kick back, go to a smaller ship, get used to it again, and then go back to the larger ship. So that's pretty much what I got.
All right. All right. How about you, King? As far as the Aurora and its capabilities and what it can do, how do you feel about it?
So, I started with it when I first had my introduction to Star Citizen. It was my pledge ship, and I had the Aurora, I think MR. That's the light fighter variant. So I'm like Shadow. I hate that ship with a passion because I just had such a bad experience with it, but not a bad experience with Star Citizen overall. It was just the ship I had a problem with.
Agreed.
So I agree with a lot of his disadvantages, but I'm going to argue another thing about disadvantages before I do niches. Is its armament. It is armor itself, the shielding and armor's pretty bad. And it's going to be a weird one, but the perception that you get when you fly it can be off. For some reason, in my mind, in that ship, if I'm flying over a landscape or down to a planet, sometimes I can't really actually tell how far it is, and I'll accidentally crash the ship. But if I fly a Gladius, Carrick, and a Mustang, I'm fine. It's just the Aurora specifically. I think it has something to do with how the glass is broken up and stuff like that.
Messes with your perception or something.
Yeah, I think that's really what it boils down to. So that's my disadvantages for it. My niche, the niches I think that people miss a lot, and this kind of counters Shadow a little bit, is in the hands of an exceptionally capable pilot, that an Aurora LN or MR can be a very combat-oriented ship, but you cannot get hit with it. It's a glass. You can make it a glass cannon, especially if you put flat cannons, laser
Scatterguns.
Scatterguns. If you put scatterguns on it and you can keep on your target, you'll shred them. And I know that from experience because embarrassing moment. A guy took me out and I was in a constellation, single pilot constellation, and this one guy, he just knew my weak points. He just knew to stay at this one angle where I couldn't hit him with my lasers, my guns, my laser guns. But yeah.
So definitely with a competent pilot, it can be a devastating ship.
Yeah, the glass cannon specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, Zook, your thoughts, opinions, and
I want to ask a quick question before I
Oh,
answer
okay.
your question, Joe.
Yeah.
How much does a constellation cost to buy? Just a basic Andromeda in game.
Taurus.
In game?
In game,
in-game?
the Andromeda. The
Oh, I could
I'll
look it up. Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
guess-
what is it like? Is it like a 4.8 million or something? If I remember.
In game?
Yeah, in game.
I'm looking it up. I am looking it up.
I haven't bought one in a
'Cause-
long time. I've had that. I think that's my first loaner actually. Was the Constellation, so I never had to actually buy it.
While he's looking that up, my point is I believe the Aurora's time has not come yet. I believe what's required for the Aurora to become a fearful threat is not in the game yet. And what that is you see talk about these players who own a Kraken or carriers or other ships like this and saying, how many gladiuses can I fit on the board of this Kraken, right? You do that math for an Aurora. How many Auroras can you fit lined up perfectly neat and square on the deck of an
I got
Carrack?
something to add to that too.
Then you take the price of the Aurora in game, the actual price of it, which is only 180,000 AUEC, which is cheaper than some quad bikes, right? I could as an org leader, I could say I'm buying everybody an Aurora. Wherever you have,
Oh yeah.
we're filling this deck full of an Aurora, and they have quantum drives. The more expensive ones can have 4 size ones, all with gimbal. As scary as it is to see a wing of gladiuses come after you, even the wing of gladiuses would run when faced with the equivalent AUEC in Auroras.
True.
So let's say the Andromeda is what, 4.8 million?
The Andromeda is 3.5.
Okay, sorry, 3.5 million. Let's divide that by the base roar. It says 180,000. How many Auroras do you think the Andromeda can stand up against 19 Auroras?
No.
No, come on, man. No.
Probably 4.
Exactly. If
They're
you
like
want to
bees.
bring,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Swarm
They'd be like bees.
the enemy.
So the role that the Aurora is going to play is going to be cheap, inexpensive cannon fodder fighters that's going to cloud the sky.
Sure.
The Aurora won't even be able to target a ship because there'll be so many of them.
You're gonna
be able to
have
bring
all
them
your
down.
new pilots. Everybody
Yeah.
everybody in your org that's all the new people, the little guppies that just joined.
Yeah.
You're gonna send them out first in the
Yeah.
little Auroras.
Ooh, exactly.
Front
Send
lines,
it out.
baby.
Front
Don't
lines.
worry, we love you guys.
Insurance will be cheap, costs will be cheap, it will be cheap to buy, it'll be cheap to field, and does not require, as Payne said, it will not require a high level of skill to adequately fly. Right? The Aurora, the way the game is right now, is you have to stand on your own 2 feet. If you're fighting, you're the one that's fighting, right? You have to do damage. You can't just survive. In Star Citizen in the future,
right back.
that may or may not be the case. In the Star Citizen future, that may or may not be the case. And I think that's where the Aurora is going to fly or shine. I think it's going to be just this massive swarm of Auroras that's going to come into an instigation, and everyone there is just going to panic. They'll make, like, if you want, even if they don't break through the shields, right? That's how you make light fighters panic, is you give them a swarm of Auroras.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's another issue.
If you were in a Gladius, like if you were in the Gladius, or if you were in the Buccaneer, or you were in any of the ships that are feared today, you can have Avenger 1 see that, right? And Avenger 1's like, I'm not going to fly in that cloud.
Nope.
No. If all of them were shooting, if 1% of the shot gets through, you're done in one pass.
Well, think about the M50 and how devastating that is. I don't know if you guys ever tried to dogfight in that thing, but it is crazy good.
Yeah,
it's just how small and nimble that thing is, and the firepower isn't that great. But if you just keep peppering them, keep it on the target, like
I mean,
they're done.
Once master modes come into play, that won't be that big of a deal, and the Aurora will be weakened significantly with master modes because it will be moving slower. But still, how long will it take to chew through 19 freaking Auroras?
Yeah.
Let's say.
Depends on how many ships the opposition has too. But yeah.
And what type of ships too? Like, for example, if you have like 2 hammerheads, 19 Auroras are not going to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a couple of Hurricanes could probably take out a lot of them too. Yeah,
but it only has one set of guns. Now, Payne's right. The hammerheads will be very good in that situation. But that's what the hammerhead is designed to do. It is designed to fight a lot of light fighters very quickly, right? Yep. Whereas the Constellation Andromeda is not designed for that. The Hurricane is not designed for that. Gladius is not designed for that. It's meant for like 1v2s, 1v1s, maybe 1-3-3s or 4s, that kind of thing.
It's
It's not meant for swarms.
it's the equivalent of having a ballista. So your hurricane's a ballista, right? Like an actual arrow shooting ballista from medieval time,
Yeah.
right? And you're on a big field, and you have like a 10,000 sword fighters all running at the ballista. The ballista's going to do some damage, probably like wipe out 5 to
A few of 'em.
10%. But as soon as the swordmen get there, it's like you're done.
Done. Yeah. So if you're in a tight pinch in orgs with new players, I could definitely see just swarms of auroras just because they're cheap.
Oh, I forgot to mention it's a good shuttle too. Sorry.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
both of your guys' points, that goes into kind of like what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to fix my glasses before I speak, guys.
Oh my god, no.
Actually,
Yeah, so my opinions about the Aurora are essentially like I agree with you guys that its time really hasn't come yet. Like right now when you like see I started out with an Aurora too. It was one of those things where I looked up one of those videos like cuz I didn't know what ship to buy. I thought they mattered a little bit more than they actually do. So I was like really stressing about it. I was like, "Oh my god, if I want to spend money, you know, I got like real hard-earned money. I gotta really think about this. This is gonna be tough situation here. I don't know what I want to do in the game. I mean, truth is, it doesn't really matter. It's starter ship. Just get one. Go in there. You could always upgrade it by work your way in game. Buy whatever you want in game. It'll be fine. But anyways, it was something that I really quickly wanted to get rid of, but just because I knew that there was other ships that I've seen that I really wanted more. I didn't think it was quite a bad ship. It's I don't dislike it, but I don't really like it either. But kind of going into Zook, what you were saying, I really think its time really hasn't come yet. I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to it's cheap and it's something that everybody's going to be able to afford. And it could fit just about anywhere. So, these orgs or, even just one person with, like you said, a Kraken or something like that, you're going to need something just as a simple put a couple guys on and go down to the planet or moon just to do a simple task, nothing too crazy. You don't got to go too far. You don't really got to think about even just fighting in it or anything like that. It's a good little shuttlecraft, and yeah, I think that's something that people don't really like think about at all. It's just yeah. That's essentially. I forgot where I was gonna go with it after that, but
well, I mean, I think a lot of people just underestimate that because there's two things. Like, well, there's snub fighters in the game now, right? There's the Merlin, there's the Archimedes. There's purpose-built snub fighters, but none of them have quant, right? So if you're going to deliver the Archimedes, your constellation or whatever's carrying your small wing of Archimedes have to get kind of close to the target to be able to quickly deploy to the target. You can have you can deploy your fleet of auroras from a Lagrange point and all of a sudden just a swarm, like be able to hit with a swarm very cheaply without having to risk your main capital ship. Like a large capital ship carrier with a fleet of auroras could be devastating in a local area.
They're good little scouts too. I think they would work good as like a little scout ship to go scope something out. But yeah, I think people are always talking about like these big fleets that they're gonna have in game, and they're kind of forgetting like not only are you not gonna be able to have a big fleet right off the bat, even if you got friends, right? And there's also going to be some people that like to start from nothing and kind of work their way up and see, without buying any ships, or using any of the ships that they actually bought with real money. And if you want to legitimately grind through the game, work your way up to a fleet, let's say you finally made it to like your Kraken or whatever. Now you want to fill that Kraken up with a fleet. It's going to be, the ships that you're going to be thinking about are all those cheap ships, small, cheap ships that you can fill it up with. Those are what you're going to be working your way up towards. You're going to go from an Aurora to, I don't know, maybe like an Avenger or something like that, and then work your way up to whatever else that you want to use. And then not only that, man, my brain is not working today. Fuck, I forgot the next thing I was going to say.
Well, I mean, you got to be able to buy these ships for people who are new, or because you got to keep in mind as well that this is for deep space or for traveling. And if you don't have the ability, or if your crew doesn't have the ability, you may not have room to put your ship. Let's say I'm a new player, right? And I'm a new player, and I have not an Aurora, but I have a Gladius, or I have something nice for a fighter, and I'm filling that role for it, right?
Yeah.
And my group goes to from Stanton, goes to Nyx, goes to Pyro, goes to wherever we are, right? But we don't have room to fit my Gladius. We're doing something else. But we need something in a pinch, right? Something comes up. We need fighters, and we need them now. I could very easily receive 200K from my org leader and be told to go get an Aurora. Go buy an Aurora. And then whenever we're done with the event, sell the ship back to the local area and be perfectly fine, right?
And
Because they're mass produced, they're made everywhere, and there's a lot of relics of them. There are a lot of old versions of them out in the verse according to lore. So that's probably one of those ships that no matter what system you're in, it'll probably be available for sale.
and
Like probably in Pyro.
to kind of like go off of what you just said, something that people don't realize too is, you might be wherever your little fleet is at in the moment. Let's say you're in Pyro, but to be able to be effective, like you're probably there's going to be orgs out there that are going to want to be spread out depending on what they're trying to do, right? Like you might have your little mining team or your little salvage team, your refueling team, whatever, right? You're going to have your little teams kind of go out and do whatever they need to do. You're going to need multiple ships in different places, right? And so it's one of those things where like, if you owned a company, you're going to need some company owned vehicles that you have in each location, that is like your baseline vehicle that everybody uses to kind of get around, do basic tasks. And the Aurora fits that really well. So, you're going to want a bunch of these vehicles in Stanton, maybe a couple different of the planets, different stations, already there, so you might have to buy, 5, 10 of these things, 15 of these things, and then maybe some of the other, depending on some of the org members' positions,
or just renting them.
That yeah, I don't know how viable that would be. That seems like a huge, like, I guess if you really have to, and that's all you could afford at the moment, then yeah.
I mean, if you think about it from an org's point of view, not from the new person's point of view, but from the org's point of view, we're doing an operation, right? And I want to put these new guys, these greenhorns, behind the stick of a ship because their ship's 3 systems over, and I need people in ships tomorrow, right? We don't have time to go get their ships. We don't have the money. It's not worth the resources to go get their ships and bring them back because of what's going on that just came up. If I want to put them in, if I need butts in the seat behind a stick, you can get it. You probably can get no cheaper than an Aurora, and probably no cheaper than even renting an Aurora. Because they allow you to rent ships now. That's one of the things that they know for a fact they want us to do in the future
Hmm.
is renting ships. Now, if you're in Pyro or if you're in Nyx, you may not be able to rent a Phoenix or a Gladius or something like that. That's probably more in higher demand.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and I bet you'd be able to rent a basic spec'd out Aurora.
Hmm.
And you know,
Give me a second.
what's the rented price? I think it's like 20,000 to rent an Aurora
Oh
or
yeah, something like that. It
25,000.
might be less than
Something
that. I don't
incredibly
remember.
right.
Yeah,
I
it's
could
nothing.
I could take 500,000 for part of an operation and spec out ships for 30, 40 people, right? I could take that little amount of money and field that many ships, as long as I have the pilots and the crew members to do it,
Hmm.
right? If it's important enough, if I need to darken the sky with auroras, you'd be able to do that, and you'd be able to do that relatively cheaply.
Yeah,
Especially in
I agree.
shock and awe.
So
Yeah.
there's another kind of like part of this that's like stuck in my brain that I think is really interesting. There was some of the leaked footage of Squadron 42. Right now, I don't know how
Oh,
much
yeah,
of this is
yeah.
going to actually like carry over to the PU. I almost kind of think probably not too much. It really
don't think so.
depends on. So in some of the footage, there was an Aurora that was heavily modified. It had some pretty heavy ballistics. It's kind of like like a pickup truck with a minigun on the back that's just roaming around, the Middle East, or like an M50 on the back or something like that.
Okay.
It's essentially what it was. It looked like a big ass welded on Gatling gun on the top, and then the sides had like some wings, like just bolted onto it or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it looked like, but it kind of got me thinking like, yeah, it's going to be in Squadron 42. That kind of thing where, there's going to be heavily modded ships that you might be able to find kind of like laying around. I don't know how much of that is going to go into the PU and what their thoughts are when it comes to being able to modify your ships and like components and stuff. And I don't know how deep they are going to get into those mechanics. But if it ever becomes that point where you could actually, essentially just kind of like weld on your own, shitty parts to an Aurora to make it like better. Like obviously, yeah, I don't know. Like you could, like if that becomes a thing, think about what the devastation you could do and the surprise to your opposition's face when they see your Auroras, like an army of Auroras on your Kraken that have welded on Gatling guns to it, like fucking size 5s or 6 or something like that. I don't know. Like it would just be like they would see it and they'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Well, I can destroy that theory real quick because CIG did come out and state that anything saw in that leak video was not going to show up in the PO.
Okay. Well, okay.
Fair enough. Well,
Okay. It
But
depends.
I want to go with that same concept because I think Joe was talking more about it's almost the psychological effect of even just visually seeing it, and
Yeah.
I can attest to that. I mean, we're going to Jumptown, for example. My org was starting out at Jumptown, and we did a scouting run. I was part of the initial group that flew through Jumptown to scout out to see what was there. And I do Jumptown. There's no one there. I fly, but I see some markers in the air, so there's clearly something in the air. So I fly up towards space to see what's above it, and all of a sudden that one marker becomes like 10 markers. And that's kind of weird. And I get closer, and all of a sudden the sky is just absolutely filled with markers, right? You don't know what ships those are. You don't know what kind of stuff is in there. You don't know what priority to attack. There could have been, if you have a cloud of 10 Gladiuses, or a cloud of 10 Auroras, and there's one really good pilot with a Gladius in there, good luck targeting the Gladius. Because remember, when you're targeting, all you see is the little chevron, right? You got to figure out which one's the chevron, and you have to cycle through those targets. And they're still a threat, as Payne said. They're not. There's not something you can just assume is new, and that you can just assume is weak, right? And then 2, even if you're able to target the Gladius, you can't dance around the Gladius because the rest of the warriors will just be hovering around you, just putting FU amount of lasers into you, right? So I could definitely see, especially once match modes come into play, if you want to shut down fighters and you don't have a hammerhead, or you want to be aggressive in shutting down fighters, dude, I could definitely see a cloud of. I mean, just imagine being on the ground in a blister or hovering jump town in a Gladius or in a Buccaneer, and all of a sudden 20 chevrons just pop up somewhere. That would be panic inducing.
It would.
Like even if every one of those chevrons are incompetent newbies who's about to crash into the ground, that's still panic inducing.
Even if they all just come at you and ram you, you know? Like that would be horrifying. If
Yeah.
you just saw a lot of auroras just coming at you to ram you, I'd be shitting bricks.
Yeah. Exactly. Like you're gonna panic, you're gonna make mistakes, and you're going to, at the very minimum, likely run.
Now,
So they don't even have to win the fight.
King, you were saying that essentially that's whatever was in the leaked footage, right? Isn't going to come to the PU, but
Any of the modified stuff, yeah.
But, huh?
Any of the modified ships, like the modified Auroras, are not coming in the PU.
Yeah, but we're still going to be able to tweak our components.
Yeah.
And kind of what I'm thinking is I'm wondering kind of like how far they're going to get into tweaking. Like how far are we going to be able to really like tweak our components? And what are the like how much better would that make the Aurora if you tweaked its components? We don't know, obviously, but it's kind of like how much better could you make some like a small ship like that based off of just some small tweaks?
I would say that small ships like that, you couldn't really focus on armor or anything like that. Maybe a little bit more shielding, but I think speed would be its
Speed and stealth.
Speed and stealth,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. Would be its core enhancements you would focus on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess from there, I guess we're done talking about the Aurora.
Yeah, the Aurora.
So, that actually, we talked about that longer than I thought we would.
I got another name for the Aurora: short nose, long back.
Okay.
I told you. I told you I had a niche
but...
topic. I told you.
Right on.
All right. So moving on from that and into bounty hunting and investigations. So for starting off with bounty hunting, right? We'll start with Shadow Spectre. What do you think bounty hunting will look like by the end of 2023?
Give me a sec. Bounty hunting. We already have version 1. Okay. And from what they've said that they want to do with it, that we're going to actually apprehend people. Okay. And we're going to have restraints.
Also a new tracking system.
Yeah. And be able to track and hunt down. It's going to be more extensive. So that's going to make a big change because we do have apprehension in the PU right now, but it is you go there to shoot to kill. Okay. This is talking about actually apprehending somebody and taking them alive. That's a massive change. And I think it's a good one. It's going to add more gameplay to this aspect of the game. And that particular game loop. So it's going to be interesting. Now, if you're going to track another player, that's going to be massive. Because if you apprehend that person, you've got to be able to hold them to get them back. So there's going to be a lot of mechanics in this. And I see it as a major feature that is going to come and is going to be welcomed by other players who are into that, you know? So it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing, but I can see it where some people are going to abuse it.
Oh, well, I mean, players abuse everything, you know? Like
Yeah,
that's just what's gonna happen in video
yeah,
games. Like
yeah, yeah,
you gotta abuse it.
yeah. I
And
know.
that's how you know we
How
find all the
how do you
bugs.
think it'll be abused?
It's a good
How
question.
could it be
It's a great
abused?
question.
You know what? Look at it like this. Say that person,
Poor newbies.
a person that doesn't do anything, okay? That has no bounty on them or whatever. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I don't know. But somebody could just apprehend somebody just for the fun of it and keep them locked up.
This is
Or
this is what I say when it comes to that. This is where CIG, I think this is one of those features I really believe they really need to tighten up with, as far as having some restrictions and what you can and can't do. Um, I believe what they should be doing with this, so that way you don't get into that where you can just restrain anybody, right? I feel like now this may or may not work because I'm already kind of thinking of things on how this could not work, right? But maybe just tie it to you have to accept a bounty for a specific person, and that's the only person that you can actually where your restraints are actually going to work on. Like if you went and tried, it'll be like its own little armistice zone type of thing, right? Where you try to do it on just any unsuspecting person, and it wouldn't
I hope
work.
they don't do that. I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know, but
Here's the thing. We already know there's going to be, mind if I step in?
yeah,
Joe? We already know that there's going to be an illegal version of this, kidnapping, right? So kidnapping is going to be a type of mission, an illegal mission, but
hmm
a type of mission that's going to be in the game. So the fundamental act of arresting somebody who doesn't want to be arrested and is not currently wanted, NPC or player, is going to be part of the game. That's going to be part of the risks. Now, they have already said how they're going to deal with arresting players, not killing players, arresting players. You would, let's say you successfully apprehend a player and you put them in their little holding cell. When they're in the holding cell, they already said that there's going to be a go to jail button, right? So while that player who's taking you back to wherever you're wanted, you're already in jail serving your sentence because you just basically did, instead of there being a little control F logout, it'd be a control inner thought F go to jail, right? That way you're not sitting there in their ship, going about their routes while you're just sitting there doing nothing, right? And I'd be willing to bet there'd be some similar option of, um, you might be two options. Like for example, they could set it up where, hey, you can set up an emergency beacon. I'm being kidnapped,
hmm
right? Very similar to a medical beacon now, where there's going to be a marker over your head. So as long as you're alive, there's a marker over your head, and as long as they're within comms range, there's a marker over your head. And worst case scenario, if you're willing to bet, there'll be a suicide option. And if you really don't want to be where you're at, suicide's always an option in that game, in the situation. So I I'm definitely a lawful player for the most part, but I do not want them to remove the ability to restrain only people that's on a mission or
I agree.
only NPCs or something towards that like that. There are ways of getting around people trolling people and griefing people. There
Well,
are
I
Crime
there are
agree
ways.
with
stats.
that.
I think that's a
I
simple way to get
Yeah, crime stats,
it,
exactly.
just make it really shitty. You know, like really give them a really bad crime stat. You know.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying, okay, that a lawful person should not, you know, be apprehended.
This is where
You
rep
know,
goes in there
they
too.
they've got to have some type of a crime stat 3 or higher. You know, for them to be apprehended. A crime stat 1 or 2, no.
I disagree.
I don't
You
know. I
disagree?
don't know how I feel about that.
It, it would not make sense in the lore of the world. It would break to a large degree, instead of immersion, and there's ways around it. Like, I mean, imagine the emergent gameplay that I'm going to do in a bunker mission and I get assaulted and kidnapped, and my orc mates now have to come chase them across the galaxy to come save me. Right? That would be very interesting emergent gameplay. It would suck for me, but just knowing that my org's on the way would add a little bit of the fun. I could watch their stream. I could watch what they're doing. I could give them
Okay.
intel about what's going on. And
Okay.
then on top of that, especially if I'm
But
in a lawful zone,
but
right?
you're a new player, brand new, and you
Suicide.
get jacked for that?
Suicide.
That 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 does no.
Suicide, they get a
A
crime stat
lot
for
a
murder.
lot of people will quit because of that. Because new players that get jacked first thing when they get in the game right now, there are people that have left because they got pirated. Okay? I'm just saying
Well,
this
see,
is this is something that's
That's the
out
nature
there.
of Star Citizen, though.
this
Yes, it's the nature of Star Citizen, but a lot of people don't want to be jacked on their first 3 hours.
well
When
to
you click the launch button, you agree to PvP.
That's your opinion on that. I'm just saying.
you should be
Oh,
free to do whatever you want, right? I agree with you, Zook, but I think what should happen, um, as far as like rep is concerned, it should massively impact you. So if you go out and you do something to, you know, a new player, right? I feel like your access to pretty much and your rep with, you know, even if it's like illegal, should get hit. Depending on, you know, it should differ depending on the factions and their stances that they take within the lore and everything like that. Um, but I mean, even illegal, like bounty missions, right? Like, or you know, with some of the mission givers out there, your rep should be hit. You know, maybe they're like, hey, you know, even us, we don't take, you know, just any old citizen out there. That was a stupid move. Now, you know, you're associated with us, and now you've put a target on us because you went and did something stupid. You know, you went and just went over to Orson on one of the platforms and just kidnapped one of the just any unsuspecting starter new player. Um, but yeah, the rep should take a massive hit, and you know, to where you essentially maybe got to like start over with them completely. You know, where it takes a lot of time, or you can't even accept any missions from them, and even lawful missions, all of those go away. And you know, there are certain parts of the system, depending on whatever system that you're in, that you can or can't access. And you would have to, you know, maybe start off go box, you know, simple box missions again because you suck as a player. You know, you got grind up from box missions or something. I don't know, to
Or
gain
thing,
your trust.
or ask help from other players. Like, I mean, because even now, let's say they do that, Spectre. Let's say they take your advice, and they make it impossible to apprehend players that don't have bounties. Right? Let's say that happens. all the credit in the world. This is a horrific problem. That's going to happen. A griefer's just going to grief. He's going to kill you anyways. He's going to blow up your ship, kill you dead, leave your body, take your gear. Right? Fundamentally, and that's what they're going to do now. They're not going to get rid of that. They're just not. Right?
No.
Right? So what's the difference between killing you dead and taking your gear and putting your body into a apprehended chamber and you just committing suicide? Practically, what's the difference? There's not one. One
There's
takes a few
not a
more minutes.
difference. There's not a
There's
difference.
yes.
All I'm saying is
The fact that
you're a lawful player. Okay? You should not be apprehended by another player.
if you're a lawful player, you shouldn't be pirated. You shouldn't be killed, murdered, stolen from.
That's not the point. You're not getting what I'm saying.
Okay,
All I'm saying is
what am I missing?
I understand the big picture, okay? Where you can do whatever you want. Okay? But you go and hook up and apprehend a lawful player. You should be set up for kidnapping, become a criminal, and if you get caught, you're going to Klesher.
Oh yeah, that's a
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
There should be
that's all I'm
heavy.
saying.
There should be
No, okay,
massive
gotcha.
repercussions for being a dickhead in the game.
Yeah,
Massive repercussions.
My apologies. My understanding was you were saying that you shouldn't be able to apprehend a player as a game mechanic, not from like a legal standpoint.
No.
Okay, I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Even if you attack a lawful player as a pirate, okay, you still have to deal with those consequences.
Yeah.
that
yeah.
you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
I think we could all agree
Okay.
on that. That's
100%.
given.
That's the main thing I was trying.
I was
point
trying
out.
to put that point out there because I feel like you guys were kind of dancing around that, and I was like, the whole idea of heavy consequences.
It's Monday.
So
It's Monday.
Oh.
We all have those delayed thoughts, right?
Oh yeah.
But I just wanted to make that point because
good
yeah,
point,
yeah,
Shadow.
it's perfectly.
there
good.
are there are players that have just gotten into the game.
Mhm.
There was one that, and I'm going to say this, he spent $300. Okay? And he got jacked.
And it's probably shouldn't have done that though.
Well, Joe,
it's kind of on him
Joe,
for the $300.
Joe, the point of the matter is I'm just saying.
No, I get it. I get what
He
you're
was a brand new player.
Yeah.
And he got hit.
Yeah.
And he wanted a refund. Okay? I don't know if he knew all the particulars of what the game entails.
Probably not.
And probably not.
No.
But with this new iteration that's coming, okay, with the bounty set up and be able to apprehend, the player that does the apprehending on a lawful player that has done nothing should take a massive hit and go to the slam.
It will.
I agree,
It will, without
but
a doubt.
here's the thing, though. I think anybody, you got to understand, no matter what game you're playing, you're gonna have a bad experience with it a couple times here and there.
Sure.
And
sure.
Every once in a while, you might get pirated. You know, despite heavy consequences, something's gonna happen, right? And there's gonna be a butthole that just doesn't care about the consequences and gonna go and just pick on you for the day.
Yeah.
And that's just the whole nature of it, right? And but if you're somebody who goes through it a couple times and then says, I'm done, then it's definitely not the game for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if your friend that spent $300, you know, my condolences on his $300
well, it's
there.
not a friend of mine, but
whoever
you and
it
I
was.
know Breadbin, our person that's out there.
Yeah.
You know, he encountered this guy, and he tried to bring him back into the game so he can get with one of our organizations
I feel like somebody
and get trained.
I get it, but listen, if he's willing to quit after one bad
Yeah.
experience or a couple bad
Yeah,
experiences,
it's not for him.
it's definitely like he should probably just move on, because if that bothers him alone, the bugs is going to get to him eventually. The development's
Yeah,
going to get to
agreed.
him. Something else will.
Agreed.
And even when the game gets to a point where it's really polished and it's out, even
Mhm.
then he's going to have bad experiences. He's going to run into pirates.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
probably still not for him.
Well, we all agree on that. We all agree on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think what they're planning on right now, for the person who kidnaps someone, whether it's an NPC or not, right? There's going to be a charge for assault because you're making the person unconscious. There's a charge for the assault and battery. There's a charge for making you unconscious, and then there'll be a charge for, once they put you in the holster, kidnapping. And being that they already have the ability to like log off or go to jail for, if you are wanted, right? That way you don't have to sit in the ship while your legal bounty hunter takes you to wherever you're going,
Mhm.
right? I guarantee there'll be an option of just like suicide or pay ransom or whatever
Yeah.
that is, where just teleport you back to a station somewhere in a hab, maybe far away, maybe close, who knows, right? But there'll be a system where you don't have to sit in the seat restrained
Oh
for
no.
hours on end. That's and that person who you're calling those crimes for, right? He's going to probably get at least a crime stat 3 out the door, right? That's three
Or
charges,
more.
yeah,
Or
or
more.
more. That's 3 charges, violent charges. Because remember, you can't pay off violent charges, even if
Yeah.
it's a low one,
Yeah.
right?
Can't really
So
land
even
anywhere.
if you can't really land it anywhere, right? So that person taking that action will be faced with, okay, I go from I can land anywhere to now I can't land anywhere but Grimhex,
Oh,
right?
I wanted to add something to that. Just a little tiny little thing I got excited about here. Do you think they should legally lock jump points if you have a crime stat like that, like a high crime stat? Do you think
Jump points.
but you should have the option to sneak, or hack or do something to kind of get around that and maybe get through the jump point, but it's gonna be more hazardous or something like that.
Well, I think what they've said they wanted to do was basically the main jump points, the big ones that are open all the time or whatever, will be heavily guarded and fortified, so you can go through it. But if you come out of that jump point wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right, you're gonna be instantly assaulted. Can you escape? Is a different,
Yeah.
Can you escape is the next question, but you'll be instantly assaulted. The next question is, well, the next thing they have said is there's going to be either, I forget if it's temporary or small jump points that move around system that people can use to, if you're familiar with it, sneak in and out of a system. That maybe a large ship like a carrot can't go through, but if you have a jump capable small fighter like a Vanguard,
Mm-hmm.
it could go through, kind of thing.
There's three
So,
different sizes, right? Like small, medium, large. That's it.
yeah.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Like,
But
like, but
the
it's like
main
it's more like medium, large, and capital.
Oh,
I
is it?
think.
Okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
but the main point of what we were talking about, to get back on the track, is, it's going to be a very, very interesting aspect, and it's gonna make a major difference in bounty hunting. It's just that
Yeah.
I just don't want to see it abused against a player, you know a player in general. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling that it is going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of controversy on it. But
If they do it right, there shouldn't be too much controversy.
if long as the player that does it and does it illegally, okay, takes the fall, not the lawful player.
The lawful player
You
shouldn't.
see what I'm saying?
Well, they're obviously the lawful player isn't gonna.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So that's my point.
Okay.
What I find interesting, because what I wouldn't mind diving into is how's that going to change your approach? Like for example, because the main things that are going to be coming, and supposedly coming this year, hashtag soon or not hashtag uh RSI
Soon,
trademark soon, right?
soon
Uh,
TM.
soon TM, thank you. Is basically the NPCs that you're after. You're not after the ship anymore. You're after the NPC inside of it. So let's say you're doing an EA extreme risk target, and you pop that hammerhead. Well, now the hammerhead's got to be opened up. You have to clear the hammerhead and find the guy inside of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's part of going to be it. They're going to be inside of it. If your guy's in a Valkyrie, the Valkyrie lands, it's disabled. You have to go in there and get him, right? So now it's not just you doing an ERT target with fighter. You have to do an ERT target with fighter, crew, and a boarding action crew,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then on top of that, that crew that's boarding action may change based on are you capturing or are you killing? And I'd be willing to bet money that the capture missions will not like you killing the target, right? So where the bounty hunting right now is very low risk because you can just spawn infinite ships, fly in a beacon suit, and not risk any gear. You'll be risking gear with bounty hunting, maybe even more so than bunkers, right? So that's going to change the risk reward. That may cause them to change the reward for the ERTs. They may go up or down. We'll see. Uh,
Well, you're
but
going to be risking a lot.
your boarding crew, you have to go in there and they'll be defending.
Yeah,
You'll have
but
you'll have
I mean,
NPCs in 0G defending their ship.
yeah, but you're going to be risking everything, no matter what, with everything. I'm just saying,
Well,
with
like I mean,
the
like right now,
ship disablement, okay? Ship disablement in 318, once it goes live, you're going to be risking everything to defend yourself.
well, no, I'm saying if you're the person going after somebody, if you're the guy in a fighter suit,
Okay,
like
but
like
same.
right now, bounty hunters can hop on a beacon suit, hop in a fighter that they can get for free, assuming they don't, you know, expedite their ship, right? And what are they risking? They're risking time, and they're risking a respawn, which that's not risking much in Star Citizen. Whereas if you're in a bunker, you're risking the ship, the time for loading the vehicles, your armor, your weapons, your ammo, your med device, your pyro multi-tool, right? Whereas now, once they get NPCs surviving their ships, and where you have to board the ship to kill your target, you have to not only blow up a target, but you have to bring gear very similar to a bunker, maybe slightly different depending upon what you're doing, but you have to bring gear that you're now risking, right? And if you get blown up before the fight, before you even kill the target, let's say the target kills you, you brought all that armor and weaponry, didn't get to use it, and you lost it, right?
Mhm.
So
But that's always that's just like it is now.
no.
King, you got
Well,
anything on this?
I was trying to answer the question.
he,
Zook, I'll just gonna make a real quick quip. Yeah, Zook's right on the point that as it stands in 3.17.4, it's live P right now. You only have flight suit you got to worry about on space bounty hunting and stuff like that. If your ship blows up, your ship blows up and you respawn. The soft death element that Shadow's bringing into this disables your ship, and if you have right now, we don't have persistence on putting guns and well, no, you can't access your inventory once your ship blows right now, if I recall
No.
correctly. Which means if you had anything in your storage, it's gone. The other problem is even if you brought a crew your ship blows up. Let's say you're flying a Valkyrie to try to apprehend somebody. You go to soft death. Your crew's still there, but the problem is now that other ship that you're trying to capture can either go away and you just lost the bounty, or it can continue to blow up your ship. If it blows up your ship entirely with you on it, everything's gone. You have to start all over. In bunkers, the way they work right now is if you armor up and weapon up everything, you go into a bunker, you're dead. You have to respawn your ship and get all your armor back.
Yeah.
So that's basically what Zook was pointing out.
No, not quite. Maybe I've worded it improperly. Sorry. The point I'm driving at is to do a bunker mission, you have to bring gear. You almost have to bring gear, right?
Mhm.
You can't go down to a bunker mission with a beacon suit, which you get for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to buy armor or find it or scavenge it. You have to get armor. You have to get weapons. You have to get ammo.
Well, to be
Right.
fair, I go down there with nothing and I just melee everybody, and it works out pretty well for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that too.
Irish
But
shuffle.
But
that's high risk,
that's
high-
now. But in the future,
that's
when things
high risk, high reward.
in the future when things actually work, it ain't gonna be like that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But
So
that's
you'll
what
have
I was
to-
saying.
So fundamentally, you have to go down there with armor. You're risking armor. You're risking gear. Right now,
And your rep.
bounty hunting, and your rep. Right now, with bounty hunting in space, ship to ship, you are not risking any gear. You don't have to risk any gear.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And you get
And
a
I
ship
was-
for free and a beacon
Uh-huh.
suit for free. In the
Uh-huh.
future, you have to risk gear to even
Mhm.
complete the mission. Not that you have to risk gear to go to a mission or to do a mission. You have to risk gear to even have a chance of completing the mission.
Yeah.
And
But that's every day.
not with bounty hunting currently. And that's what I'm looking
Not
forward
with bounty hunting, but doing certain missions. You're risking something every time you go down there.
Well,
I-
that's
the point I'm talking about is with the new bounty hunting, the subject being the new apprehension and the new bounty hunting, the 1.0 or the 1.0, 2.0, whatever one they're going into, hopefully this year, you will have to risk gear because as much as I like going down to a bunker in a beacon suit and just meleeing everybody, like Joe said, you can't melee in space. So you'll have to bring something.
You'll
Watch me.
you'll have to have the apprehension zip ties. You're gonna have to buy those
yeah.
and
Yeah.
bring those along with you, and then you're gonna have a ship that has a brig holding cells.
Yeah.
So
Like a hawk or
the Avenger
Stalker.
one, the Avenger guy.
Stalker.
A Gladius won't be it. That's it.
a
Whoop.
Titan.
Here's
The Avenger
idea.
Stalker.
Blue.
Yeah, the stalker.
I just had an idea.
No.
Some suspects that they may want you to arrest and not kill might be an atmosphere. If you soft death their ship,
They're gonna
They'll-
fall.
they'll fall
They're gonna
and they'll
fall.
die. So you either have to lead them out of the atmosphere or have something with a tractor beam capable of holding a ship
Yeah.
to
Probably.
bring it down softly,
You're gonna
which makes the mission more complicated.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more complexity and strategizing when it comes to your bounties. And I think there's going to be, I know right now bounties they're really easy to kind of like get away and kind of like fool you, and like just because things don't really work the way they should. But even when they do
Make 50.
work, it's almost going to be even worse when things do work, because they're going to have so many other choices on what to do, as far as, it's kind of almost like when they know you're coming, if they know that the bounty hunter's coming after them, if you give yourself away, the element of surprise, they kind of have the upper hand on, depending on how well you're equipped. They have the upper hand to onto where they can bring you. They can funnel you in somewhere, so.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, all the things we're talking about now, we're speculating a lot because we don't know all the particulars, the main particulars.
Not
But
that much.
Well,
to a point,
it depends. It depends on the. So we heard about what they want to come out for bounty hunting this year, right? And
Yeah.
we're kind of speculating on if it does come, if those features do come out, on how we see them right now in our heads without any information. You kind of already have to speculate, anyways.
Well, here's the thing: the three things they said they want to do, and that they want to be able to get out this year, right? Is NPC surviving soft death, right? Your bounty target surviving soft death. Two, they want bounty missions where you have to bring them in alive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then this secondary like B option for there is, I'm assuming that if they want you to bring them in alive, if you bring them in dead, they'll be very displeased, right? And then
Yep.
the last thing is they're not changing the location of where they're at. In fact, they're adding investigations to it, right? Where it won't be a bounty is here, go get him. It'll be the bounty is here. Here's a few leads that we're aware of. Go find them, right?
But that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I'm saying like we know these things is what they're doing, that they're actively doing, and they want to achieve them by this year. So it's already probably a good chunk of it's made or has the base coding done, right? They've already done some work towards it, or they wouldn't have said they wanted it done this year. Whether they make it or not, that's the Star Citizen soon TM, right? But that's what they've already started working on. I'm confident saying that. So we can take those things that we know for a fact are going to happen or likely is going to happen and say, how would that change the current gameplay? Okay. Investigations could change the gameplay as in if, as Joe said, we could blow our cover and they could go to a bunker instead of being in the air. They could be in a big fighter instead of being in a transport ship, right? If we don't blow our cover, they might be in a transport ship, very easy to get to, right? Maybe we could snipe it because he's just walking around an outpost somewhere, right? Two, if it's soft death and he survives the explosion, we have to go in there and get him. So that's a logical consequence of the game as is. That's going to be coming out this year. And then three, because he's surviving soft death, which they again, we already know they want to do. So I don't think we're speculating that much. It's just a logical consequence of what the changes they want to make.
Well, I personally, when it comes to stuff like this, I want to see it.
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
Do
I
you
want to see it.
do you guys think that we're going to see any sort of, so they kind of tease those investigation missions during CitizenCon, and do you think there's going to be any sort of investigation tied to bounty hunting at all? Because
Yes.
I feel like if they
Yes.
my thoughts on it right now, if there is, right, and they have, I think nobody's going to want to do like let's say so what they talked about was finding clues, right? Maybe going to a couple locations. There's some sort of story to be told at each location, and some clues you got to find, and then you're gonna be hopping, and then eventually you, depending on the route and the information you choose to follow, because they said they want it to branch off into possible things, and you kind of have to deduce your final location where you think they might be or something like that. And every outcome should be different. No one's going to, if that is the case, if they do tie that to bounty hunting, I don't think anybody's going to ever want to go after a real player, because it's just not going to be interesting, because you won't have necessarily those storytelling investigative like clues and stuff like that.
Maybe that's a good possibility. Go ahead, King.
I want to answer the first question because
Sorry.
I didn't get to. What will bounty hunting look by the end of the year? I think we'll just have a simplistic next iteration where effectively we'll have apprehension missions on NPCs and we'll have destroy mission on NPCs and we'll have investigation, expanded investigations. to go along with how this kind of what Joe's talking about leads into the next question, though. How bounty hunting and investigations, kind of how they become similar is, and I forget the guy's name who does the mission feature team.
Elliot.
Elliot, thank you. Elliot said it best. He's like, they are the exact same mission. The difference is in bounty hunting, you're going after a person. In an investigation, you're going after information or an outcome of something. I agree with Joe on this. Bounty hunting a player cannot be equal to bounty hunting a PC, because bounty hunting a PC is a set up staged process. It's a pre-staged process that the system's
somewhat linear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very somewhat linear. Whereas investigating a player is too dynamic to stage that.
Very random.
The only thing you can really do about tracking a human player is known locations. So as of right now, we get known locations, but that can only happen when a player enters a system, an array area, an antenna array area, and it tags their ship and they fly off. And you'll have a time frame.
Yeah, you could be doing that for hours.
Yes, you could be enough hours. So what I would argue what they would have to do with players is a quantum decay system where you get a direction they went and the decay rate of their quantum stream, but it automatically calculates that for you. It just tells you they were here going this direction 2 minutes ago. That way you can get a more direction of which way they went after they left that area. Now, if you enter an area and you don't detect any quantum, you can make a good educated guess they're in the area. And then scanning, this is where data scanning and stuff like that has to come into play. Most likely though, you'll pick them up on radar before long. And that's just with human players. But obviously there may be more tweaks than that. That's just my idea behind it. That is absolutely speculation. But that's how I see PvP bounty hunting going.
I want to challenge that if you guys don't mind.
I got an opinion on that too that I just kind of thought about.
Be right back.
Go ahead. I think the PvP bounties will be a lot more dynamic than NPCs. And that make them better. I think people would prefer PvP bounties over NPC bounties.
Oh.
And I say that because of this. Right now, part of the fun is the chase. Yeah. And with NPCs, the chase just isn't there. And even if you have to follow a few clues, even if they integrate the investigation into finding them, it's still going to it will still feel kind of repetitive to a certain degree. Whereas finding players could be a lot more complex than you think. For example, one of the things they want to do is they don't want a comms beacon to be just a pure global around the system period situation. They want it to be linked with ships. So let's say the guy's wanted, right? One of the ways you'll find him isn't the fact that he's in the comm range area. He's in comm range area where another ship can see him. So, like for example, if you're above the atmosphere, 70,000 kilometers above Microtech, right, or 70 kilometers above Microtech, well inside of the current comms range, in the future, that won't make you automatically detected. What that will do is, if a ship comes across you, if you get found and you're spotted, then you become detected and that marker shows up again, right? And if you're doing that, you can get with people who owns heralds, get with people who owns local facilities. If you're in good relationship with local security forces, they might feed you information directly, whereas maybe it isn't as delayed.
That's kind of where I was going to lead into too.
Yeah,
that part of it.
And that's good because that leads into data running, as whereas hey, found this bad guy.
Somebody's got
the first one to buy it off me. First one to send me 1,000 credits. Gets to know where he's at. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe like just some explorer comes across like let's say like a bunker or some other facility, right? They go in there, they do whatever they went there to do, and maybe they end up finding. Kind of what I was thinking is, there could be places where you could hack terminals and you could see certain specs about that player. Maybe whoever's data running went to the bunker because of the equipment that's there and what data they could find. And they're like, hey, it just so happens, I came across this data on this specific person. I'll sell it to you for however much, and then kind of leads into what I think would be really cool if they wanted to add to that even more is, maybe some of that information. Because if we do get the persistent like hangars or even like the like apartments and stuff like that kind of later on, you could find out where they live and essentially bust their door down and maybe find some evidence. Maybe they got like a computer, like a data pad or a laptop that will say, some of the latest missions that they've done, recent, crimes that they committed, where it was at, whatever information that would be relevant to you.
Last comms beacon.
Yeah.
Anything like there's a lot of things that you can do for a player that isn't going to be as easily or as readily dynamic as a NPC. That will bring in other aspects and will bring in other roles, right? Again, like are you arresting the person? Are you killing the person? Or is it are you trying to ambush him in atmosphere? Do you want to ambush him in space? You may know where he's at, but you may want to let him get out of atmosphere before you ambush him.
Yep. The other side of that, when it comes to the NPC stuff, I would like to see it eventually up to this. So like up to this. Effectively, you see it in a multi-staged situation and it can be random between one stage and like 3 stages, for example. Stage 1 is where basically you go to the first location that your contract tells you to go, and you have to find information there. You find information that he's at this next area. Where you go to the next area, you may find somebody in his faction that you could maybe pay to get information to where he's located, or you find another piece of data or whatever that shows you he went here. Maybe you come across a wreck that this person you're trying to bounty hunt was there. It was an NPC that was there that you have to go through and investigate and find out logs or whatever. And maybe there's a security camera showing you which way he jumped or something like that, something crazy like that, right? And then the third stage is you actually make it to him and take him out. Or maybe stage 2 is you made it to him and you fought and he ran from you. He ran to a bunker and you have to fly down to this bunker and you have to land and go in after him. Maybe he went to a cave. And then as you're coming out, maybe another squad of his goons landed and coming into the cave after you. Stuff like that. I would like to see that. But again, I think that we're not going to have such a dynamic idea of arresting or apprehension or killing. I think you either have to do A or B at the end of 2023. You either apprehend or you kill. And in investigation, you either find the information or you find an approximate of the end goal. And that's it. It's going to be pretty hard on that. And by the way, a lot of those systems that I'm talking about, the mechanics in my examples, actually exist in the game currently. And for the players out there, if you don't believe me, there's a reclaimer mission that you can play that you go to location A, then location B to the reclaimer, go inside of it, find whatever you're looking for, and then you have an option of 2 endings to that mission. You can either go to point A, which I think is a Lagrange point to submit the data, or point B to somebody else. So, so those mechanics also do fall in. And then we also got the landing mechanic on some of the new derelict missions where they land new NPCs down, and it's
the
there.
nav mesh, AI nav.
Yeah, the nav mesh. Yep, they can do that stuff now.
Yeah.
And I would want to point out if they make the swap to jump onto your point, Payne, if they make the swap from having a marker over someone's head to over a marker on what you can detect, right?
Mhm.
If you blow up their ship and they jump out of the ship, they're just floating in space. Can your ship detect a person?
That's a great question.
If
Right?
they
It
scan,
can't.
I know for a fact if when the scanning mechanics come in, if they do by the
The
end of
thing,
the year.
the personal scanning mechanics can detect people. Ship scans cannot. So
Depends on
ever
whether
had a
you're in the pilot seat or not. Are
Currently,
you
right?
EVA'd out too? I don't know. But
well the assumption is EVA out because I'm thinking in my mind, I was attacked in my Harbinger and through one of the 318 PTUs,
yeah.
and my Harbinger soft deathed, and I literally got thrown back the back of the ship, and I rolled out of the back of the ship.
Okay.
Right? I literally rolled out of the back of the ship and I fell out, and I saw my ship fly off and got finished off. It blew up completely.
hmm
Well, if the marker was on the ship and not on my head like it currently is, then as far as they're concerned, that marker just disappeared. Right? So the question is, okay, where did he go? Right? If he has buddies in the area, you don't really have time to search for him. Now you gotta find a person in space. Now you have to EVA out and scan,
hmm
exposing yourself
Yep.
to find a person, or just find a body in the middle of space, which is for anyone who's actually done that incredibly hard without a marker.
It is. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my god.
Right? Imagine if they just jump out, right?
hmm
And the 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 intensity of that comes that will sorry, not the intensity, the variety, right? The cat and mouse game that can come from that PvP experience,
hmm
hunting that bounty. If they make those A, the changes that we know they want to make, and B, the changes that are just already functional with current in-game tools. Nothing's fancy, nothing extra, just current in-game tools, but they want the way they want to make it final. That will make a PvP cat and mouse game for the ages. It'll be very fun. Especially if you're in Pyro and the only people feeding you information is the people that's part of your team.
Yeah, it's a lot
Because right now
to think about.
yeah.
Yeah, my brain is firing off about it now. All right, I'm gonna bring myself back here. All right, well, we'll go ahead and move on to another question here. So I think we already talked about disadvantages and stuff about bounty hunting. We kind of covered pretty much a little bit of every question about bounty hunting that we had already. So I think we can go ahead and move on to features for 2023. So starting with Shadow, what is one feature that you really want to see? If you could only pick one feature, what would you want to see this year come out?
Persistent hangers and freight elevators.
Okay.
I would argue that's kind of one two in one package, yeah.
And if I really want to get Star Map.
That's everybody's.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like that would almost be my number one. You know, does this question include back end tech though? Because if it does, I would say whatever the back end tech should come first more than anything. I don't care what else they put out as long as they finish. Yeah, or Vulcan.
If we
or
really
whatever.
really want to get technical, okay, Mobi-Glass with remote access to your ship when you're in a vehicle.
Please, yes.
Oh hell yeah! Well, we saw that in the new Mobi-Glass update, that they teased. It had the little button. They didn't even bring it up, but it was there, and everybody saw it on the corner of their eye. They're like, "Oh, no way! It is a thing." So yeah.
So that's what I want. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
See, that's how
Those things.
when the game comes out, that's how they got Nickel and Diamond want to pay for remote start.
Okay.
I'll buy one.
Sheep.
No,
I'm
I'm
good.
very
I'm
much
good.
looking forward to it. Like it, I don't know, the hangar elevator piece. I would like to see that to be able to load and unload cargo, because then we'll actually be able to get the feel for. We'll for the first time be able to get the feel for how much profit we need to make for
Mhm.
trade. And some ships will come into their own. Caterpillars, the rafts, stuff like that, whose loading and unloading will be quick and easy,
Mhm.
where compared to the C2, which will be very, very difficult and cumbersome,
Mhm.
right? Uh, I think that would make it really, really cool, but that's just not the one I'd be looking forward to that much. I guess I'm not as much of a trader as Shadow is.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. King, did you have anything more to say on that at all,
As far as tech coming in this year, the
or
one
features? Either or.
I mean, okay, so in a ranked list, I segregated this into two parts: back end and front end, or player experience stuff. Player experience stuff, definitely being able to repick your shard. I mean, being able to pick the shard that you want to start in or play in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That way, that's definitely. I'm pretty sure we'll get that pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's supposed to be fairly
Dude.
soon here. Hopefully,
Let me air quote that for everybody.
one of the hopefully it's one of the 318.x patches.
I hope so. Yeah. And backend tech's obviously a tie-up for me. Clearly server meshing, but I'm going to hold on that one because I do heavily suspect that may be another PES scenario where it'll take up until next year to do.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, by the way. I know everybody's complaining about it, but like honestly, let them get that one right. Take all, as long as they're actively and actually working on it, and we do see Evocati by say October. Let them take the time they need to get it right. But as far as tech that I do suspect we'll get before then, player-facing tech, um, for performance alone, I want to say Vulkan, the Vulkan API integration.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very possible we'll see that this year because it again, as a game dev, Vulkan API integration's a lot easier than people suspect it is. But again,
that's how they made it seem, at least.
You are aware 318 is the Vulkan integration.
No, 318 is not the Vulkan.
They said they haven't even started.
No. They've integrated it. They haven't optimized it yet.
No, that's the Gen 12 renderer.
Yeah, it's the Gen 12.
You're confused.
I'm getting confused.
Yes, you are.
Vulkan so comes after Gen 12 is optimized Vulkan's to a certain degree.
Vulkan's a API renderer, an API caller, whereas it's equivalent to DirectX.
Okay.
In the regards of its kind of how it functions. Well, no, that's not true. It's the same class as DirectX, whereas Vulkan is a lot more lightweight library and caller than DirectX 12 is. And it's easier to integrate Vulkan into game engines than DirectX is. And Vulkan can also do things like Linux and DVK. It can integrate with DVK very well. Sorry, man. I got that brain fog going on. I apologize. What they did in 318 was complete the Gen 12 renderer upgrade. Basically, they
got rid of all the legacy code.
Yep, got rid of all legacy rendering code, and now everything is generated through the Gen 12 renderer. So that way, when you play the 318 PTU, and again, there are problems, but as well as 318 performs on a performance level on your PC, it's honestly way better than 317.4 was on PTUA 1. And you can tell the difference. Now, they're not optimized yet either. And that's the thing that shocked me is like, okay, this thing's running pretty damn good for what it is. And basically, for layman's terms, basically what they did is little tasks or jobs that your CPU had to do, they moved it over from taking up a bunch of processes at once and organized it to where it takes less processes to do the same types of jobs. That's basically what they did. So they basically reorganized the cabinet. What they did, which takes a lot of work, by the way. So the Gen 12 renderer uses your CPU. What the Vulkan will do will migrate a bunch of stuff over to your GPU and force your GPU to render all that stuff instead. Yes, it's using your GPU now, but there's a lot of things that are happening here that will have to be processed via GPU.
It'll prioritize things better and put things where they're supposed to be to have better performance. Yeah,
it's going to be so much better. Oh, and pro tip, by the way, if you're an overclocker out there, make sure you set your RAM higher on this clock. So if you're running 2133 or 2400 megahertz RAM, set it to 3000. You'll see a performance difference. Yeah, that's what I want to see. That's the one feature I think we'll see in SC this year. Those are my features. So
okay. What about you, Zook?
I want to see player facing. I want to see NPCs walking around my ship. I want the ability because I want the ability for there to be player messages to my ship on the pad, in my side of my ship, and the ability for the NPCs to load up and unload on my ship. That'll give you the ability for bounty missions. That'll give you the ability for medical rescue missions. So instead of just generic investigation missions, you could have medical rescue missions for NPCs. Find them in the cave, and if you can find them within 8 minutes, he can still be alive, and you can save him, and you can get extra bonus money for saving a life, as opposed to finding a corpse. Right? You can have the personal transport, mass transport.
It just opens the floodgates for everything.
Yeah, you can have your 890 jump can now have an actual large group of players on board and passenger missions.
King's excited.
And touring missions, and like just the ability for the NPC to move to your ship, board your ship, and then move around your ship will enable all of those features, enable all those types of missions, assuming they have the time to do it. And I could, if they make that work, and if server meshing is delayed, which I could live with, right? I don't want it to be, but if it does, I could very easily see them assigning a newer player or a newer team, or not a new player, a newer developer or a newer team, or somebody who's coming on board and needs to get familiar with the game and its code, and say, take this NPC moving on and off a ship mechanic and make a base personal transport mission. Tweak the rescue mission where it's alive instead of it being dead. Any number of these things, just like they did with racing, right? They could do that with medical transport, passenger transport, touring, any number of different things. I don't think it would be that much more difficult.
Okay. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, makes sense. I like that too.
And the back end piece that I want to see, I'm actually going to go with Shadow on this one. I want to see those persistent hangers and freight elevators, because they, as Payne said, they go together. They're not separate. They go together. I want to see my personal hangar because I got a jukebox I want to play music on. I got stuff I want to decorate my hangar with. I want a home to go back to as opposed to just logging out at the ASOP terminal.
I want to go along with the freight elevators and everything. I want the it's probably not going to happen yet, but I really want to see the medical elevator work, where you can actually, carry someone onto that, put them on the stretcher and then bring them up to the room or something like that. Or maybe have NPCs waiting where you could call for medical assistance at the hangar, and NPCs will be waiting with a stretcher, and you land and you go put the incapacitated guy in the back of it or something like that, and they take them up and do what they got to do.
I feel like asking an elevator to work in this game is.
I know.
Asking a lot.
You're gonna put some poor soul who's incapacitated, who's waiting to get revived because whatever reason you couldn't revive him or whatever, and his ass is gonna be thrown in the middle of Stanton somewhere.
I can see it now. Me and Shadow are gonna be playing, and then we're gonna have a freight elevator. It's gonna go, and all of a sudden, me and him are gonna be like, "Why are we floating in space, yo?"
Exactly.
You're gonna have to go pick him up again or something, if you can even do that. You're gonna
Don't
go out
worry,
there in your
man.
little ship
I
and
got
pick
you.
him up.
I'm gonna save your life. I'm gonna save your life. No, not the elevator.
I was on an elevator last night, and then all of a sudden, Bikini Point disappeared from around me.
Ooh.
Oh shit!
Ooh, that don't happen too often.
And that was in 318. So yeah.
I watched a video of a guy. It was a morphologist. He walked out of an elevator to the left, and he's like, "Man, the performance is real amazing today." And he opens up the door, walks out. And there's no worse, and he just goes, "Choo."
Perfect. For me, my thoughts on it. I'm a little bit open because I don't necessarily know what's going to impact the game more as far as features. As far as backend tech, I really want them to nail down PES, really optimize it this year, and get Vulkan in. That's the main thing that I really care about, because if they can pull it off to where it really does work the way it's supposed to, and they get it really, really tight at the end of the year, to where they can actually move on, and we can say, hey, the tech that they came out and said was gonna, change the game and give us all these opportunities and possibilities out there. I really want to be able to look at CIG and be like, they can finish something, or maybe not even finish it, but like, almost, at least dial it in to a point where it's really working in the game and doing what it's supposed to do. If they can somehow achieve a level of that by the end of the year, I'd be really impressed, and I'd be like, okay, thank God, I can kind of count on them to finish something and do something really, really good. That's how I feel about the backend tech. And then for features, that's the one I'm not sure about. I don't know what I want, what I would prefer to be in the game, because there's so many unknowns with how it's going to actually, any of these features are really going to work in game, whether it's going to be fun or not. I mean, bounty hunting might sound amazing, and then they come out with the first iteration or the next iteration of it, and it turns out to be broken and not really be that fun at the moment, and they might need to go through a whole another year of going through it and fixing it. So I think for that, my answer is I would like to just wait and see. And I think by the end of the year, when we are doing this podcast and saying what was our favorite feature of the year, I hope I could pick one and be like, this one really changed the game and did really good stuff. But that's my answer on that one. This looks like it's going to be our last question for the podcast. What feature or features do we want to see? Oh, we did that one. Oh, do we? Okay. What feature or features do we not want to see? I didn't see the not part. Yeah. What feature would you say really shouldn't come out this year? Shadow.
Oh yeah.
Maybe the game isn't ready for something that's a little bit more advanced. Maybe you just wouldn't be able to handle it. Too many issues or bugs that CIG would be able to maybe not fix in the moment. So they should hold off on it, or
they should hold off on the bounty hunting apprehensions.
Oh,
until we get better mechanics, better tick rate, and it's flushed out with the criminal system.
I'm hoping they can do that by the time they're ready to do that, because I feel like bounty hunting stuff will come, I really do think, probably a little bit after the midpoint of the year. I think maybe
Mhm.
like Q3 or something like that. And I'm really, really, I guess, getting my hopes up on the fact that I'm like maybe the game will be, because of Gen 12 and Vulkan stuff optimizations. I'm really hoping it makes a difference on things, and
I think
hopefully in turn, whenever they're ready to put out bounty hunting, it'll perform a lot better than we think it will. But I think that's just wishful thinking there.
That's all I got.
Okay, what about you, King?
Really thinking about this one too, because there's a couple of things crossing my mind about this. Like, I don't want to hear or talk about another core tech this year. I don't want
Another
to hear
what?
about core technology.
Oh.
Because I just think PS and server meshing are way too important for any other core tech to get involved this year. I think the proverbial sail ship needs to go to the destination of the destination port. Basically, what I'm saying is, I want the server meshing in, which that's the core tech. Feature wise, I do not want to see a jump gate in the game this year. Even with server meshing in, I do not want to see a jump gate.
Even
I
with
want to
limited capacity, or even just the fact that you can just see it and not really interact with it.
Yeah. Because I don't want to. I don't want to be teased that hard. And then
it ends up sitting there for 2-3 years before we see anything.
yeah, before anything happens, like don't show us that, because it's a lazy attempt at something. I want server meshing to be 100%, near 100% before we hit that jump gate. I want to hit that jump gate and go to Pyro.
Yeah.
And I would prefer them to do a server meshing iteration and bring in a large ship. Like, I'm assuming there's one ready. I'm just making a guess. This is obviously hyperbole here, guys. I want to see what the servers will look like with a massive ship with players in it, and other things like that. And so
Mhm.
we'll get this server mesh. I would hope to see that. But alternatively, just give us basic server meshing, so we can make sure it's good, and then bring in Pyro behind it, because I just feel like that would be the smarter play. Pyro, I just don't want to see the jump gate without Pyro. I think that's my major thing. Sorry, I'm kind of like out of left field trying to say I don't want to see the jump gate without Pyro. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, makes
I
perfect
want
sense.
I want to see something that's tangible and functional. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the jump gates. That's one of the things. I want that spectacle and awe of seeing one for the first time and interacting with it. Or having that ability to interact with it and get. It's going to be an insane feeling to finally go through that jump gate and actually see Pyro for yourself the very first time. That's gonna be everybody's gonna be making those first reaction videos. And it's one of those things I really want to just jump into and just be like, holy shit. It's like have that realization for myself. I don't want to hang around a jump gate and be like, poking it, be like, come on, do something, fucking do something, and then year and a half later we finally get Pyro and it's not special anymore because it's like, whatever. I've seen it. I've seen the jump gate and that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you, Zook?
There's not a lot of features I don't want to see, and I'm not overly concerned with features in what order, uh, because I still, for the most part, trust CIG to build things in order for the most part. You know, if I was around 4 years ago, maybe I wouldn't say that, but I am saying that now. Uh, I don't want to see any more mining advancements. I don't want to see any more racing advancements. I don't want to see, you know, I want new loops. Like I want
Okay.
even if they include if they integrate two loops together, I'm fine with that. I want to see something new that's fresh, not a mining gadget, not a new racetrack, not a new like what they did last year for racing was amazing, and that was a very good thing, right? Great, that's done. Do that
It's
for
pretty
something else.
fleshed out to a point, right?
Yeah,
What
it
else?
is.
You could do more with it, but I mean, at its current state is like, it's good. It's good enough. Like it works,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's fun and interesting. You could,
It's a it's a good tier zoo. It's a good tier zero. I don't
yeah,
want a tier one for racing.
yeah.
I
You
don't
don't got
want
to
a
do
tier two
more
for
yet.
mining. Yeah, where's the tier zero for exploration? Where's the tier zero for data running? Where's there's a whole bunch of things that you could do all within Stanton. It doesn't need pyro that could use a tier zero treatment. And I just don't want more of what we already have.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think for me, I think I'm always. I don't necessarily have one in particular thing that I don't want to be in the game. I think what it is I'm usually pretty scared or skeptical about a new feature when they announce something to when it comes out on uh, how broken is it going to be. I
Yeah,
think the one thing I'm really scared of is if they do introduce NPCs into other places and different ways to interact with them in missions and stuff, and they can actually go on your ship and stuff. If they had that this year, I think that's what I'd be most worried about because they don't work in the current conditions. And I don't think they will work by the end of the year necessarily. And I think that could really ruin a lot of, like, if they end up getting inserted into a lot of day to day activities within the game, I think it could really ruin your experience if, depending on how broken they are, and how bad the server is. Um, I think it'd really just ruin your day. I mean, the equivalent is like, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is back when what was Dead Rising, and they had like the when you had to have the NPCs like follow you, and you had to like just the hordes of zombies would come around, and the NPCs just did not want. I remember them not wanting to do what they're supposed to do, and they'd get lost or stuck on geometry and stuff like that, and wouldn't be able to complete the mission. And I just see that, but times 1,000 within Star Citizen.
That that's a problem that's been around in gaming industry a long time. Just NPCs
Yeah,
getting stuck on bad geometry. Yeah,
yeah. I feel like it's gotten definitely better. Like I haven't run
sure.
into an issue with NPCs. I think in a long time. Um, but I mean, I don't play as much as maybe some of you guys do. So
clearly,
there's that.
clearly, you haven't played any of the Resident Evils in the recent times where somebody had to follow you.
I have. It did. It did really well for me in Resident Evil. I had no issues with NPCs.
Well, did y'all see the video, the ISC they did on NPC collisions and collision detection? I want to say it was like 6 months ago.
Yeah, if I did, I don't necessarily remember what they said or anything.
So
I'm
one of
very
the things that they showed was they wanted NPCs to be aware of each other and objects around them, which
Yeah.
is
Oh yeah,
fifth
where it showed
fifth
them.
level. Yeah, where they're coming, they're passing in front of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's
Yep.
like fifth level, duh. It makes childish level of like elementary level of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're literally saying, hey, if this MP is like sort of NPC is sort of stuck somewhere and he can't get through a path for whatever reason, they'll like lower his hitbox and make the NPC sort of turn, like sort of to slide in between. So hypothetically speaking, that same thing could happen if you're stuck on the edge of a desk or stuck on the edge of a door or whatever, and he's stuck, right? I can see that same kind of concept and technique being used to say him scissoring through a doorway, even though it's completely empty. It'd be funny to see, but he'd probably easier time making his way around.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I I don't know how I feel about it. So it's one of those things I'd have to kind of wait
I
and
hope it's
see.
not trash. I hope it's not trash.
I agree with you. Um, all right, so that was the last question. So now's the time I ask you guys kind of go and make the rounds and get your final thoughts on everything that we talked about today. Shadow, any final thoughts?
My final thoughts uh, on the whole situation. Um, I just want to see things come to fruition at this point. Um, the most important thing is that we all have fun in the game. We come here to live out the fantasy of what we could be doing and where we could be in the future, and live out a dream. And yeah, you're going to have your consequences, you're going to have your pitfalls, you're going to have your triumphs and things of that nature. Um, CIG just needs to follow through with what they're saying, but don't give us a date. No dates. Because if it gets delayed, then people get pissed. You know? Don't give us a date. Just do what you got to do and make fulfill your promises, but don't give us a date because if you're like I say, if it gets delayed, that's when people get upset.
Mm.
Okay.
I just want to see the fruition of what you're saying. And I'm willing to wait. Plain simple as that. I'm willing to wait, you know?
I think we
Um
all are.
yeah, we all are. But if you give us a date, that's when people are going to put their expectations in. And when it doesn't come, that's when people get salty.
Mm-hmm.
So no dates, just do what you got to do. If it's delayed, say so.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, man. I mean, hell, I'm here for the long haul.
What about you, King?
Just go for it. Go for it, King.
Okay. My final thoughts overall is I think 2023 looks like a lame duck year, but I think it's going to be more feature rich than we give it credit for. If we have at least two patches that are like the 318 patch in P2 now that we have, I think it's going to be a successful year. We didn't think 2022 was successful until 318. 2022 would have been a more successful year by far if 318 hit in December. But I think that with 318 hitting in 2023, plus what I hope to see is a couple more things hitting this year, it's going to be pretty successful. I think it's going to be a great year. And I expect surprises like the whole crafting thing in 318.
Mm-hmm.
Complete surprise.
Yeah.
Give us more of that CIG. And I'm going to back up Shadow. Don't tell us dates. Just say, oh, yeah, it's coming to PTU now.
Surprise. Yeah. We've been working on it. We've been cooking it up, and yeah, it's either ready for this patch or the next patch.
Yep. That's where I stand today.
Okay. What about you, Zook?
I want Star Citizen CIG to have a really good year. And regardless of what content they put out, regardless if server meshing makes it this year or not, right? Regardless if they put out a date or not, or miss a date or not, doesn't matter. when it gets to PU, the thing needs to be stable. It needs to be relatively stable. We need to be able to consistently have 3 to 6 hours of playtime without my client crashing and without my server crashing. And if you see it does that, if they're honestly listening and they can manage that to happen, this year will be an amazing year. This game sells itself, even in the state that it's in right now.
Yeah.
If you can get people to have time in game, even if there's my multi-tool stuck in my hand, I can get past that, right? My armor's missing, I can get past that. I can get past a lot of bugs. There's a lot of workaround bugs we can do.
It's
But
the
that
beauty of
server
friends too.
crashing, yeah. If you can clear out the server crashing and you can clear out the client crashing, if you can make those two things stable to where we can consistently get 3 to 6 hours of gameplay reliably, consistently, you'll sell more ships, you'll sell more content, you'll have more play hours, you'll have better feedback just across the board. And the features you do get out there will be appreciated more, you'll feel it more. Yet you just really need to have the patches stable. 317 was a disaster, and 22 was a quote unquote bad year for that one reason alone. And I mean, I don't know this, but I would imagine a lot of dev time got put trying to fix 317 that could have been put towards getting 318.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a dev, King's a dev. Maybe, that's like saying three on this side, 3 eggs on this side, nine on the other, or vice versa. Who knows? Uh, but if they can make 318 a stable patch from crashes, right? Stable from crashes, this will be an amazing year.
Yeah, I agree. The stability needs to happen sooner than later. And it
It has
and
to happen now.
and I think with the stability we have a better chance of it now than we ever have because PS is finally in our hands and Vulcan soon, hopefully. And I think as long as those really get optimized this year, then I'm really hoping that our stability will go up, and they could actually finally crack down on a lot of the issues that's been plaguing our game, and yeah, I think it was kind of hard before, this year because of PES still being worked on and stuff, but now we have, I feel like, our first real shot at kind of seeing the PU really improve. And I think along with that, they really need to fix the launcher. I'm so heated over the launcher. I hate the launcher. It never, because I've had so many issues in the past with the launcher, and I still do every once in a while. Like I'm tired of whenever anything happens in the game, and then all of a sudden my launcher, when you actually click off of the launcher and you close it, right? There are so many times where I bring up the launcher 3-4 times and it doesn't want to work. I get the error messages, and I want I just want I want it to be able to log in, get into the game, or get out. And I feel like we shouldn't be having the launcher issues that we have. But you guys might have, I'm sure you guys have more insight into that than I do. Because, I mean, as someone who doesn't really know anything about the IT side or development, I don't know what really goes into making that thing work. But, yeah, I mean, I know whenever I see any sort of posts on Spectrum or Reddit, it is flooded with people that can't get around the launcher and figure it out, and mostly all new players.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with UAC permissions on a local PC, blocking certain actions, antiviruses, stuff like that. That's probably, I would argue, probably 80% of the problems out there. The other 20%, you can chalk up 10% to bugs, and then you can chalk up 10% to it something else on the person's PC that's not working right, like the video isn't rendering or something like that. So, like, yeah, there's a lot of things I would really have to see. Like, the only issues I've ever had with the launcher were the buttons were missing, but that was fixed quickly just by like restarting the launcher or waiting a few minutes. And the only other issue I've ever had with the launcher when it would say can't launch Star Citizens, because a lot of the times it was a checksum error, which is basically verifying that version A matched with version A.
Yeah.
Over here. That was like a red warning that popped up, and all you had to do is restart your game, restart your launcher. I haven't seen anything else much about that. The only other errors I know are if my version in general is just out of date, like I'm on 3.17.2, but it auto patches anyway, so I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of on that.
I'd
have to see it.
The one real thing that comes with the launcher, though, that really I feel like we shouldn't have to deal with is something I deal with is whenever like a 30K happens or any sort of crash at all to desktop, I have to like restart the launcher like 2 or 3 times after completely closing it, and that kind of thing. And I want that fixed, you know.
So you'll never have that truthfully fixed.
But I don't have that problem with anything else. I don't have any of these issues with any other launcher for any other game that I've ever played.
So there's other things you got to take in mind. Like there's a lot of things like decoupling with the server that you're attached to, decoupling with Star Citizen versus other single player games. For example, you're not decoupling from a server. The delay that you're experiencing is not due to your computer or the game. It's due to a decoupling scenario that's happening. It's just taking longer than expected because it's collecting data as you decouple. So when you run a game, this is every game in the world, you have a thing called a game instance. An instance is the universe of that game. Okay, it controls everything. So it's the container that controls everything that your computer's running. It's the executable, as some people say. So, you know, when you shut something down in Windows, under normal circumstances, it has to run a series of events to actually shut it down before it's gone. If you can repeat the same issue with Star Citizen as you with other games if you're fast enough. That's the key part. If you're fast enough. So if you closed a game and then went back and opened the same game again super fast, it'll tell you already have this application running.
Okay.
Actually, when Microsoft Office is notorious for that. I bet Zoo could back me up on that one. You can close Office, but try to open it up immediately. It'll say, sorry, it's already running. So the task is already running. So it's a scenario in which Windows takes forever. It's a scenario because the decoupling from the server is happening. Your session manager, it's taking a while to disconnect you. And then, you know, there's a bunch of stuff compiled up. So it'll never actually go away. It'll get optimized over time.
So do you think the more optimized that Star Citizen is as a whole, you think all those issues will kind of slowly get better?
Yeah. Okay. Because they'll be less noticeable. You'll run into them less, and just by the sheer speed of how things get processed at one point, it'll be rare. It'll become more rare for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
For shizzle.
Cool. All right, cool. I didn't know that, so that's really good to know.
Yeah.
But
ruin the day.
With that, we're gonna go ahead and end the podcast. And one thing that I want to say before we go is I know some of the things that we talk about can be a little frustrating because we we definitely rant and kind of go off on our own little tangents and branch off so much. We don't necessarily stick on topic, but I want everybody to keep in mind that this is pretty loose form kind of podcast, and this is mostly kind of just a bunch of friends getting together and getting excited about the game. And a lot of, our little ramblings is kind of akin to that 2-hour rant that Chris Roberts had at CitizenCon. So it can be frustrating for some people, but it is what it is. I don't think it's ever going to really change with us. So with the podcast going forward, just keep that in mind.
Great Chris Roberts.
Oh, is that
No, his name, we're going to call him Space Roberts.
Space Roberts? Okay.
We're going to call him Space Roberts from now on. And Zook, your mic got weird.
Test.
Oh,
yeah,
that's better.
It's good now. I think you cut out a little bit, but yeah, you're good.
Heresy.
But with that, I thank everybody for watching, and this has been Shadow Spectre, King Payne, and Zook, and Voidwalker Joe signing off, and we'll see you next time.
7.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.